All right, so I'd like to wrap up the Gradle Enterprise Dashboard tour by showing you one last thing that has to do with the build cache node replication. I'll show you how we leverage it in Gradle Enterprise, and to view cache node replication or anything to do with the build cache on Gradle Enterprise, you just need to highlight the build cache section on the Gradle Enterprise dashboard, and it'll open this particular screen. So by default, it'll highlight the usage screen under the build cache admin, and this shows you the build cache usage for the last 24 hours, the last 7 days, and the last 30 days. So in our case here, what I'd like to bring to your attention is this. So the built-in cache, which is highlighted here, comes as part of your default Gradle Enterprise setup. But if you'd like to take advantage of build cache node replication, you need to create separate cache nodes in areas that are closer to where your engineers are, and then connect those to the main Gradle Enterprise instance. So in our case, we have some engineers in East Africa, and this particular node serves the engineers in Kenya, Uganda, and Egypt. Then we have West Africa cache node, which serves engineers in Nigeria, and finally a cache node that serves some of the engineers in US West. And the idea behind this is, especially if you have a largely distributed team around the globe, it's not ideal just to have a build cache node in one location. You can replicate that main build cache node with other cache nodes that are closer to your engineers that are replicated from the main node, and you'll find that when engineers ping a cache node that's closer to them, it actually improves their local build times, because they don't have to make a round trip to ping the main build cache node that may be farther away from where they are. So that's one of the beauties of having this build cache node replication technology available to us. And yeah, we can just look through it, and on this screen you can see the different data available to you, like the artifacts stored, evicted, the number of hits that you get on a particular node, the number of misses, the hit rate, copy ins, like the artifacts being copied in, copy outs, the artifact being copied out, and then the data received and the data sent as well. So you can see that over a period of time. This is like the last 7 days, and one thing to note here is you can see that the Africa East, Africa West are active, but it seems like there's a lot of zeros on the US West node, and we'll get to that in a few. So the next is the nodes. So when you click on the nodes here, this is where the build cache node screen, on where you get to create a node and add new nodes. If you'd like to do that, and below shows the existing nodes. So don't worry about the key. Yeah, I've just displayed the keys to you, but the secret is what is most important. As you can see, it's hidden. So these are the existing nodes, as I'd mentioned. So there's the Africa East, Africa West, last seen. So this is the last time they were pinged, and as you can see, they're available. And if you remember from the previous screen, we are seeing a lot of zeros from the US West cache node, and you can see it's not signed in. So that means an issue must have occurred in that Gradle Enterprise cannot connect to the US West node, and as a result, you can't push artifacts to or pull artifacts from this particular cache node. So whenever you see this, it means you need to actually go in there and figure out what the problem is and get to fix it. And by doing that, you can look into the health section here, and it'll give you the health status of your particular build cache nodes or your build cache network. So you can see the built-in cache node is working well. Africa East node is also functional, as well as the Africa West node, but the US West node has an issue. As you can see, it's saying error, not signed in, and it's possibly down. So we might just go back and sort of look at the GCP instance for this particular node and try and debug it and figure out what the problem is with it. But the last thing that I'd like to display to you guys is the build cache entries. And you can enter a specific cache entry key to check its status across the nodes. So in our case, whenever we are storing build artifacts into a cache node, each artifact has a cache key, and that key is what is used to identify it across the different build cache nodes or the different build workspaces that you're working on. So in our case here, I'll be picking a key from my local build, and as was highlighted earlier, the way we set up our build system is that the particular build artifacts are generated by our CI build, and our CI build is a single source of truth. So it's only the CI build that is able to generate artifacts and store them into our build cache nodes. And then when we run our local build, we pull in those artifacts that were generated by the CI build into our local build. So it means that whatever I might have in my local build as a cache key is already available in the CI, and I'll be able to prove that to you. So I'll switch to my command line here, and as you can see, this is where the local build caches are available, and to view yours on your local machine, you can view it on this particular path. All right, and since I'm in this particular folder already, I'll just list the particular keys, and as you can see, all these keys are available in here. So I can just pick one at random. Let me just pick the specific key, switch back to Gradle Enterprise and put it in here and click check. So it'll just take a second to load, and as you can see, it's available in the built-in cache, the Africa and the replicated caches that are also live, which is Africa East and West. So that proves to us that the cache node replication is working as expected, in that when cache artifacts are generated and pushed to the built-in cache node, that cache is replicated across to the other cache nodes for our other engineers in different locations to be able to use them. All right, so that's it for the Gradle Enterprise walkthrough. Hope you found this useful. And if you have any questions regarding this, feel free to ask them in the comment section, and I'll be able to get to them and answer them as soon as I can. One last thing before we wrap up this video, I just wanted to share a few links to a few resources that I think would be helpful to you. First up is this page on the Gradle documentation about build cache. I'll share all these links in the description of this video. Secondly, there's the build cache node user manual. This was definitely helpful when I was setting up my build cache nodes. Next up is a link to a blog post that I did on deploying a Gradle build cache node using GCP. This was a really good exercise, and this is what we did at Premise Data because we're using GCP. So you can definitely read through this. And the final one is around Gradle build cache node replication in Android. So this is also a blog post that I did, and it just details how we did the build cache node replication. As you can see, these were the different locations we were live. So in the US, there was someone in Egypt, I was in Kenya, one of my other colleagues in Uganda, and two others actually who were in Nigeria. So you can just check out this links to these blogs, just read through them so you can get a better understanding of how we achieved the build cache node replication in Android. Thanks for tuning in, and till next time, bye-bye.